With me today, I have John Jones. He's the president and CEO of First National Bank of Layton in Utah and has done a fantastic job and has ridiculously great numbers as a bank. And of course, being inside of John, I know him. He always wants things to get a whole lot better. There's no disputing the huge amount of success this bank has had. And so we're going to learn a little bit today about how he did that along with his team, because they've done some pretty ingenious things in making things happen. So welcome, John.
Thank you.
So let's get started by having you tell us a little bit about what's going on at the bank and what the bank is. Tell us about the bank.
Well, we're about a $330 million bank. When I started many years ago, we were probably $150 million. But after the recession, we decided it was time for us to not worry about survival, but to think about thriving. And as we did that, we looked around for ways to increase our deposits. We think that's probably the primary way to grow a bank. There's often a tendency to rely on lending. We believe that if we focus on deposits, the lending will follow it. And as we looked around, we just found ways that we thought would be most successful, and that happened to be associating with the Emmerich Group.
So tell us a little bit, John, about some of the numbers that you're most excited about right now.
Well, we've had some great growth in income and in our assets. We're trying to prepare this bank for whatever economic eventuality occurs, and the best way to do that is to have what we call consistent and reliable earnings. That means we have to have a customer base that we can depend on, both good times and bad times. And we think that the work we've done with the Emmerich Group has helped us do that as we focused on our most profitable customers, duplicating those as we go to find the next new prospect to make into a customer. We don't want to experience what we did during the last recession. We think if we can prepare ourselves, we will be able to take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves when the recession comes, as it most likely and most assuredly will.
And recessions are when all fortunes are made. So there's nothing like being prepared for it. So you've accomplished some increase in deposits, some increase in earning assets, net interest margin, and cross sales. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the needle movement that you've had?
Well, we focused a lot on generating customers that can make profits for the bank without having us to focus so much on the rate. So we have had an increase in our net interest margin. That's because we have focused more on value than on rate. We've tried to grow the portfolio. That shrank dramatically during the recession, and we knew that that was a pivotal requirement for us to make it through whatever the future would hold. So we've had some great growth with great customers. We focused also on trying to be efficient. Our efficiency ratio was declined by 4%, which is a heavy lift for a bank our size, because we don't have the same non-interest income that a large bank has. But in doing that, it allows us to focus more on the best employees as well as the best customers. And by doing that, I think we've had some great buy-in on the principles that we're trying to learn from the Emmerich Group. We've had consistent above 90% participation for months and months now on the TGMI University. That can't do anything but help as employees consistently take those courses. Whatever the courses are, they will help them in their job. So we think that that's had probably a profound impact on us, just that learning by increasing the skill set and the drive that our employees have.
So your culture score has been going up. Tell us what are some of the best things you've done to improve your culture?
The best thing we've done, honestly, is the quarterly celebrations. We have great huddles in most cases. There's some room for improvement in some of the departments and branches, but our quarterly celebrations have just been a blast for employees. We get great comments. Each one seems like it's better than the last, and those employees like to be recognized. Sure, everybody wants to make good money, but they also want to know that they're important, that they're valued, and those quarterly celebrations have had a dramatic influence on how people feel about their performance and their contribution.
Well, and that's an important piece too, because it's not just about rah, rah, happy, happy, the quarterly celebrations. It's about how they tie to profit. Because according to that Business Week study that was done when they asked 6,000 employees, do you perform in the top 10%? And anywhere from 87 to 97% of those who responded, 90% on average, so they perform in the top 10%. So through the quarterly celebrations, you've managed to move up your net interest margin from, is it 477 to 511? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your earning assets and what kind of progress is being made there.
Well, I think the real progress on the margin is on the deposit side. We have probably the second lowest cost of funds of any community bank in the state of Utah. And even though rates have moved up, we've managed to keep customers. We focus more on transaction accounts than on time deposits, because then we think we actually own the customer, we don't rent them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
that's where we've made the most impact, is on the liability side. The other thing we do on the deposits, on the loan side, is to make sure that we're pricing fairly, but that we risk adjust the price. Every customer doesn't deserve the same rate because their circumstances are different. We had a tendency to just price every loan the same. This way that we price loans now is we try to price them according to the risk associated with that customer. And that's helped us increase the margin as well.
So was there anything that would have prevented you from working with the Emmerich Group at the time that you made the decision? What kind of resistance did you have going on within you or within the group that could have gotten in the way?
Interestingly enough, we had known about the Emmerich Group for probably 4 years before we made this decision. So we had many times asked ourselves, should we do this or should we not? And when we got to the point where we were really serious about trying to grow the size of this bank, particularly again on the deposits, we interviewed several other possible businesses who could help us with that. And we finally just said, let's talk to the Emmerich Group. And because it was more than just growing deposits, it was about changing the culture. We felt that had a longer term impact for the future of the bank than just running a program. If we changed employees, we wouldn't need a program. We would have automatically the system to grow the bank. And that we went because it was a culture as well as a process, rather than just a process and program.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So what changes did you make that best helped you move the culture score needles, the net interest margin needles, the cross sales needles? And you said your cross sales were at, what is that number at now?
We started tracking them. They were about 3.6 cross sales per average. Mm-hmm. They're now just under 6 cross sales. We still have room to grow, but we've had remarkable increase in that. Our greatest success on the deposits has been the retail sales program, and the way our employees have embraced it. As they have successes in those, they want to share it not only in their branches, but with everybody else in the bank. We truly believe that's one of the things that is helping us keep our cost of funds down in the face of rising rates, because we're really focusing on transaction accounts that are not sensitive to rates, and for which we believe we own the customer, we don't rent them.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about the systems that help you get that kind of cross sales, because that's enviable. And there are thousands of banks all over this country that have had 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 false starts, and they're still sitting more in the 2 cross sales area. So what are some of the things specifically? You already said that your TGIMU usage, which is the Thank God It's Monday learning platform, and having people in there consistently is a key piece, because repetition is the law of learning. And you talked about quarterly celebrations. What else has helped you make sure that that really became sticky within your organization? Because at this point, I don't think it could ever go backwards. I think, unless you only had new people and they weren't onboarded properly. But it feels to me like this is as part of First National Bank of Layton as, you know, how you open the doors in the morning. So tell me a little bit about what you've done with that really helped you accomplish that phenomenal breakthrough in cross sales.
Well, the system is there if you apply it. So I think the single most important thing we did was put together a leader and a team that would make sure that we executed. So it's not a matter of whether the system is going to work, it's whether the people are going to work with the system. And because of Brady and Shelley and the team that they've put together, they have done an outstanding job on getting buy-in from all the people that they work with. And now Brady's working with Profit Rich Sales. We're starting to see movement on the ACEs there. It's really because of who's helping us run that, and that's the team of Shelley and Brady. So to make it successful, you need to make a commitment to one of your best leaders if you want this to succeed. And I think we did that with our team.
Yeah, you did a great job of putting the right people on those slots. And so it's always that combination of great leadership with a great system. One without the other never works very well. So what's life like now at First National Bank of Layton? Tell me what it's like there.
Our culture has changed a lot. I think people are happier. We have people that are more enthusiastic. There were difficult times because some people weren't all bought in, and we had to have the conversation. And I think that their lives are happier not being here because this wasn't for them. But those people that are here now really do want to watch this bank succeed, to grow, and to make a difference in our community. We're a community bank on purpose, which means we have a real heartfelt desire to see our community, the ones in which we operate and where we live, improve. We've done better at that because of being with the Emmerich Group. We were awarded just late last year a special award by Layton City because of our participation and the activities that we do here. They called us up and said, will you come to a city council meeting? And they gave us a special service award to recognize the bank for the things we have done in this community. And they're one of our largest customers as well. And we've done a lot better job taking care of them because of the things we've learned.
Excellent. Well, you've done such a great job of implementing. What would you tell someone that you were talking to who was considering moving into this journey and learning these processes and getting these kind of cultural transformation processes built within their organization?
First thing, I want to make sure they don't live in Utah because we don't want them to learn this. You can cut that part out.
I see how this works.
So let's pretend it's like in Montana.
Yes.
All right, we'll start over now.
Let's talk about those Montana banks. What would you tell them?
I would tell them that they ought to be sure and give this a try, but it needs to be a serious effort. I mean, I think the programs are proven. When we saw the numbers for that very first time that we attended the Superbank conference for those institutions, I came back and said, look, if they can do it, we can do it. And it requires you then to make a commitment. It's not just a financial commitment. That is probably the easiest part of the decision. The hardest part is, are you willing to make the commitment for yourself, for your team, and commit people to do the things that are there and have faith and confidence that when you do it, that you will get the results that have been observed in other banks. We were convinced after seeing what those other banks were able to do that we could do it. We just had to make sure we got after it.
Well, and you've done a fantastic job, and I just love watching how your numbers just keep popping up every month from the month before. You're on a very steady incline, and then it has to do with good leadership. So thank you to you and your leadership team for doing some outstanding implementation.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the great relationship we've had with the Emmerich Group.
It is my honor. I can't believe we get to work with fine individuals like you. It's just awesome. Every time, I will just tell you, every time one of your team members calls into our office, everybody here is smiling because you guys just radiate joy all the time. It's
you guys are just great. And if you want me to re-record that part about what I should tell somebody, if you want to give me a few hints, I would be happy to say that, because I think that it's just a tragedy to me that there's not enough banks in the West who have either associated with this company, with the Emmerich Group, or and had an interest in giving this a try. Probably a good thing for us, but seriously, I'm surprised that when we go there, most of those banks are on the other side of the Mississippi, and we think that's a tragedy that so many people aren't taking advantage of this.
Well, we'll do our best to clean up that tragedy and make sure the western part of the United States is filled with banks that keep moving. I keep looking at that trend line, and it's a hard trend, not my prediction. And if we keep going with that trend line, we're going to be down to 2,000 banks in 2022. And so we got to work harder and faster to make sure these community banks stay in their communities, because we know what happens to communities when those banks go out of there. So it's more than just whether the bank makes money; it's whether that community thrives as well. So we're up to something, and so are you. So thank you for being up to something.
I think you're right. That's probably the number one thing that I should have said about the other banks, and that is, where do you want to be 10 years from now? Do you still want to be around? If you do, you need to learn what it really means to be a community bank, and I think that a lot of that comes out of the Emmerich Group. What does it really mean to be a community bank?
That warms my heart. That's what we're up to. Thank you for noticing. I'm committed out of my mind to keeping community banks intact. So thanks so much, John. It's been a real pleasure. And thanks for a great day. Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.